Cowardice asks, the question, is it safe? Expediency asks, the question, is it politic? Vanity asks, the question, is it popular? But conscience asks, the question, is it right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must do it because conscience tells him it is right.
Every time our country stands in the path of danger, an instinct seems to summon her finest first, those who truly understand her. When freedom shivers in the cold shadow of true peril, it's always the patriots who first hear the call. When loss of liberty is looming, as it is now, the siren sounds first in the hearts of freedom's vanguard.
Fighting for humanity and against globalism, one mind at a time. It's the Freedom Link with Joe Joseph.
Well, hello, everybody. It's another exciting adventure tonight. Yes, the 2nd of March, 2024. Joe and Scotty here. And boy, it's been another exciting couple of weeks since we've done a broadcast, Scotty, and the world is still the world. Yes.
The world continues to turn and the craziness continues to get crazier, you know.
Boy,
and,
man, it's hockey sticking.
Oh man. Yeah, right. You're exactly right. And
and I also want to apologize in advance, anybody out there, that if you hear any chaos in the background, hell, you might even see chaos in the background. If you do, yeah, there's kittens running about, and they cause a lot of trouble. So just so everybody knows that, yeah, kind of a challenge here.
A lot of kitten chaos going on over there. So,
oh boy. They're climbing my green screen right now. That's not good. Anyway, yeah, so a couple of weeks, you know, lots happened. Have you been following the Fannie Willis drama that's going on down in Atlanta?
I've been trying, you know, because you know the past couple of weeks that we haven't been on air, I've been, you know, recovering from a weird mystery illness thing, you know, whatever weirdness is going around. But no, I haven't followed it too much. But it doesn't look like it's going too well for Mrs. Willis.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't been following it. I don't know what's going on.
I think the drama's gonna continue. It's just not the way we envision it or think about it. It's more along the lines of, you know, is she gonna continue or not? I don't know. I think that she's probably gonna be removed. However, there's probably going to be something that plays out in order to make that
from what
happen.
I've seen, it's pretty obvious there's a lot of conflict of interest and whatnot that has taken place that does disqualify her from, you know.
There's no doubt about it, man. I mean, they got everything.
Right.
They got her dead to rights, but, you know, it's the race card because they have to, every single time they have to use it when it has nothing to do with that. It's, did you do it or didn't you do it? It's not a black thing or a white thing. Who cares about that? That has nothing.
Right. Like I said, I haven't been following. I mean, what her like argument is, or what they've been trying to twist it into. You know, to deflect from what she did. You know.
Yeah.
So,
you got that one thing going there, and then of course up in Manhattan, Trump was found liable for $355 million. Right? Now there again, there's another. Interestingly enough, you know, you find out that down in Atlanta, there's a Democratic operative that's planted in the Atlanta DA's office that has been calling the shots, arranging meetings, communicating with the White House, things like that. So definitely not on the level, right?
Right.
And I don't care who it is. That's not how things should be done. Then you go up to New York, and it's basically the same type of situation where you have a DA or a attorney general that is just said it straight out right before she was elected. I'm going after Trump if I get elected. And she got elected. She
Right.
goes after Trump. Now, I'm not saying everything he's done is on the level. You got to be an idiot to think that you become a billionaire by being Mr. Nice Guy and
It's
following
the
all the rules.
boldness and the brazenness of them to just basically come out and admit why they're going after them, and admit that they are biased, right? That's the reason why they're trying to put him in jail, because they don't like him, really. They don't like him.
He's kind of obnoxious. Yeah, and he's obnoxious and shit like that.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah. Right. You know.
I get it. Well, the one thing that stands out to me through it all is the fact that they're telegraphing it well in advance. And not just that, it's a myriad of different things.
Right.
But there was a great piece by a guy by the name of Matt Pippenberg, right? Kind of like an editorial, but he kind of compared these control freaks, if you will, to children being in charge. And he called his editorial, "What's next? What's next when policymakers can't hide their sins? What happens when they can't? Well, they can't. They can't anymore. It's like they are so, like you said, brazen, and almost a feeling of, I don't want to say invincibility, but there's certainly a swagger about them that they think they're obviously above us in so many different ways. And I'm speaking of like Miss James, the AG of New York. I don't think Joe Biden thinks anything. I don't think he can. He can't remember what he did 3 seconds ago.
Right.
But his control freaks, the control freaks that pull his strings and write his cue cards and all that kind of stuff. Well, guess what? They think they can do no wrong. I really think that they feel almost chosen for the role that they're in, and that they're going to change the world, and everybody's going to sing kumbaya, and we're going to get rich doing it. And that's of course one of the main drivers.
And it's also like Emperor's new clothes, right? You know, where they feel that, well, it comes back to, they feel that they can that they have the moral superiority to implement this on everybody, and that they know best for everyone.
Yeah, and it's laughable. So you're right. So Matthew writes, "Children in charge. I'm reminded of the kid with his hand in a cookie jar while pretending his parents can't see him, denying his guilt despite the crumbs falling from his face. Again, it's almost comical, but there's really nothing funny about all the major economies crawling into a recession or denying recession in the USA, while all mental midgets from DC to EU play with bonds and inflate currencies. And you got currency wars going on and trade wars going on. You got all that stuff, among other things too. You could talk about the Green New Deal, right? Which is absolutely idiotic. It's a waste of money. And all it's doing is channeling resources from the have-nots to the haves. So they're getting all of the resources so they can hoard it and they can control it. That's really what it's all about.
And the more chaos you foment, and the more chaotic things become, the more you can take advantage of things, obviously, right? And leverage things economically and extract money and resources from areas. And that's
but think about this. Think about this though, in terms of raping the entire world, the Western world, which is basically what they've done, there's nothing left. It's like, let me say this. They speak out of both sides of their mouth, because they're
Right.
at that point now where they almost can't continue down this path without there being some sort of ramification or repercussions
There's
that,
nothing left to pillage. We're getting to a
right.
point to where there's nothing
You
left
can't
to
hide
pillage.
it. You can't hide
Yeah.
you can't hide the social um, difficulties that society has. And, when you talk about like socialism and social safety nets and all of that stuff, you can't have it both ways, right? You can't have something that say, oh yeah, you're free market. And then on the other hand, you're free market, but you get this, that, this, that. And then on top
Right.
of that, you have a self-inflicted or a coordinated mass migration. And it's not just here in the United States, it's Europe, right? Europe is being inundated with immigrants and refugees. And it's all money funded from like UN NGOs that go down to Africa,
Right.
they go down to Venezuela, and to South America and to Central America, and they set up routes. They pay people to move.
Yeah, they
They
coordinate
they coordinate
all
it
of
all.
this, right? They coordinate these mass migrant movements and these caravans and stuff like that. There's a lot of excuse me, there's a lot of coordination and money and effort put behind a lot of it. You know, a lot of people get the idea that this is just like organic migration where all these people are just randomly coming together in all of these gigantic packs and
Yep.
forming these giant caravans and all of that stuff. Now there's a lot of resources and stuff going on behind it, and then not only that, you got the cartels and the human smugglers and but like you said, this is going on globally, and I don't think I think I saw something the other day where they said we haven't seen this much migration or this much movement globally of masses of populations moving into other areas since like back in the day, like the 1800s or
Yeah.
1700s, something like that, which is wild to think about,
Right.
that level
Well, let me
of
say this.
movement.
Let me say this. From a historical standpoint, too, you think about it. The Act of 1871, one of the major factors of the Act of 1871, which, by the way, incorporated the United States of America, but also created this ideal of citizenship,
Right.
was the mass influx of immigrants. It was happening so fast and so uncontrolled that the cities couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle the influx. They couldn't build things fast enough. The costs were getting out of control. The squalor, the sweatshops, the slavery that was still going on in 1870. All of that stuff,
Right.
right?
Right.
That's why they tried to put some controls in place, because they said, "Holy moly! If this happens, it's going to totally overwhelm our infrastructure." And the social fabric, because you're instituting that change too fast. And that's what ends up happening. So you have all of this stuff happening where you've got these people moving up. You have laws in place, by the way, that if they were just enforced, things would be
Right. Just
a lot.
enforce the existing
Yeah.
laws and
So when they say that the migration system, the immigration system is broken in the United States, like you'll hear um, President Biden say that it it's broken because they've been instructed to not do their jobs. And you'll talk to a lot of uh, Border Patrol, Customs and Border Patrol agents, and you'll hear the same thing, that it's akin to the rules of engagement in Vietnam
right.
or in Iraq, where you know where the enemy is, you know where their resources and their assets are, but you can't bomb that. but you have to bomb that swamp over here, but you can't bomb where the stuff is. And it just doesn't make sense to you. It's just like, what the hell? Well, the same thing is here. You have plenty of people here in the United States right now that are suffering and or not making ends meet. You've had stagnant wages for decades, since the 1970s. So there is plenty of people here in the United States that require the resources for which them being a citizen would normally grant them. But now it's going to people here that were, for lack of a better term, trucked in and then given a free ride to whatever destination they wanted. And then when they get to that destination, yeah, you probably have to sleep in a gymnasium for a while, but don't worry about it. We'll give you $1,000 a week, and then we'll put you up. Then we'll put you up in a hotel or whatever. Before that happens, Massachusetts is it's a right to shelter state. It's the only one in the country, right? They say that it's a right that everybody has a shelter. Okay, that's great. That's a wonderful thing. Somebody had a big heart. Lots of people had a big heart when that happened. I don't think they ever envisioned this kind of influx, because if you study the law, that's not supposed to happen. And you should only be dealing with those that are citizens and people within your state population that might be struggling.
Hey, come on, Joe. Come on, Joe. So those
I know, but there's 75,000. There's 75,000. Now, Massachusetts isn't a big state. It's not, but 75,000 emergency housing allotments, we'll say. And you know that right now there's an 11-year backlog. An 11-year backlog for shelter. So, of course, like we talked about, they're going into the taking away the community centers for
I was gonna say
at-risk kids and all this kind of stuff, and they're sweeping them to the side and saying, "No, you guys can't have the only freaking
those impoverished African American youth. They don't need they don't need it. The one place that they can go to at least
gives them stability.
Have stability, right?
I mean, it's unbelievable, man, unbelievable. So yeah, obviously you can see. Any dumbass can see that it's engineered, right? But I'll give you some examples, right? And this is the money side of things, right? Like Janet Yellen and Jerome Powell, and just to show you, and you guys all know that they speak out of both sides of their mouth. But in the spring of 2018, Janet Yellen said, quote, "You'll never see another financial crisis in your lifetime." But then again, in the fall of 2018, she said, "I do worry that we are going to have another financial crisis." It's like Bush in 2000, right before the crash, right before he left office and handed it over to Obama, I should say. "The fundamentals of the economy are sound." I remember that like it was no tomorrow. I mean, just him standing right now. It's the White House. There's a fireplace behind him. "The fundamentals of the economy are sound." Everybody knew it wasn't. Everybody knew there was big problems, but he has to lie. He has to lie, Yeah, right. For his buddies, because that's where all the money goes to. So Jerome Powell, he said the same thing in 2018. "There's no reason to think this bullish cycle can't continue for quite some time, effectively indefinitely." Yes, of course. It's just the party's going to go on forever.
Yeah,
right?
The party's going to go on forever, my friend.
But then a year later, it's, quote, "The U.S. is on an unsustainable fiscal path. There's no hiding from it." So you know what I mean? It's like, depending on the audience, they tailor the message to the audience. That's really all it is. And if you think about what's going on here in America, we're only one example of debt-laden countries that don't have much leeway left. Italy is just totally encumbered by debt. If you take a look at the countries like Spain, France, you could go all the way around Europe, the UK, Scotland, just debt coming out of the ears. Here in the United States, NBC just put out that the U.S. national debt is rising by $1 trillion every 100 days. Every 100 days. Yeah. So if every 100 days, that means $3.65 trillion a year we're adding to the national debt. If that's, if you stay true to the 100-day counter, 3.65 trillion. And it's only going to go up. It's only going to go up. I remember a while ago, it was probably like 2014, 2015-ish. I said, we have these historically low interest rates, but history shows that the average interest rate from, say, the Great Depression or the turn of the century, the turn of the 20th century, through the Great Depression and on to present day is about 7.5%.
Yeah.
So right now we're at the average of what interest rates have been. And I said, if it was just 5%, if the United States had to pay an average of 5% on the national debt, it would cost the government 90% of the income tax just to service it. Well, we're already there. We're already there. If you take a look at what we pull in the income tax, which is really only there now as an income redistribution scheme, and you look at our national debt and what we have to pay in interest, which is now more than what we pay for the military by far. I think it's $1.2 trillion in interest now a year that we pay on the national debt. The national debt's $34.4 trillion as of Wednesday. You know what some people say? It's just a number. It's fiat. It's what it is, and what it will do is it will eventually get to the point where people will not accept the debt. They can't sell it. They won't be able to sell it unless the interest rate goes up and up and up till it's a point where somebody says the risk is worth the investment. That's what you're seeing. That's what you're seeing. And what ends up happening is, if you look at it, it does this, but it's always going up, up, up. And there's a great graph. I'm gonna pull it up here just so people can see it. It truly is a hockey stick that we're seeing happening with this. So really crazy. While I'm pulling that up, I do want to bring my good friend Ken Webb back, because, well, it just wouldn't be the Freedom Link without good old Kenny boy. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, gentlemen? Sorry.
Hey, man.
Sorry for being belated to the show.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And
Tardiness, yeah.
I do have my camera coming in. Should be in the beginning of the week. So next week I'll have my camera on, so y'all can see my old self.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, we ain't no spring chickens anymore, are we?
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. I'm pulling it up. Got to have the pulling it up. Let's see. It's just been a little bit.
We already got Joe pulling up graphs and
dang darn it. Oh, dang darn it. Here we go. All right. So here we have it right here. This is it. Look at this. This just here, October 2022, right? Look at a straight line. La, 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 la. Whoop. That's a hockey stick. That's a hockey stick. It's crazy that it's 100 days. Every 100 days, $1 trillion. And it's only going to get worse as long as the interest rates stay elevated, which is why you see so many people, like your talking heads in the and pundits on like the CNBCs of the world and things like that. They all say, "Well, yes, they've priced in 3 interest rate reductions this year," and they're always talking about that, but they don't understand, or maybe they do, and they're just, kind of giving us a little lip service, is that if they do that, you're only going to cause things to go out of control again. So you can't do that. you don't have that kind of policy at a time when the economy is good, right? It's good right now. I don't know who for, not for me, not for you, but there are people that think that it's good. Yeah, they're just not, they're not us.
And they don't
It's good
care.
for that
And they
upper.
don't
It's good for
care.
that up. Yeah, no, they don't care, man. Yeah, and it's only good for that upper echelon, that upper like that upper 10% that really holds all of the stock, right? You know, in the stock market, and you know that very upper slice of the pyramid are the one that's benefiting from everything. So yeah, the economy's great for them, but if you're the average Joe, no.
And the
It
news
ain't
says it too, Scotty.
right.
And the news says, "Oh, it's great. Everything's going. It's going in a good direction. It's going to be all
Mm-hmm.
hunky dory." But be scared. There's people out there going to get you. They got people going all over the place with that news. They put the fear into you, but then they give you hope. Everything's good because the TV tell me so. Kind of stuff, and you're like, "Oh man." They talk it, they do it, they don't care. But everybody goes to the grocery store and knows. You go in there and
Right.
go to the grocery store. Are you paying that electric bill? You're looking at your electric bill now. How did my electric bill go? What? I know I even use less electricity, this whole
Water.
month, and all of a sudden it's more. No way, no way.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
cats they shameless.
Out of control. Out of control. And they think that the solution is wind and sunlight and what else? Alfalfa sprouts. That's right, alfalfa sprouts. They're going to save the world. I'm telling you, man. They're going
Hey,
to save the
and those you got to get ready for those cockroach protein bars
cockroach
too,
protein
man.
bars. Just like
Yum, yum.
just like Snowpiercer. That's what they should do. You know, maybe they could get people to actually get onto it. Get your own Snowpiercer cockroach protein bar today, and it should be like Snowpiercer. That's what they should call it, just so that
Right.
people can see like what that's all about. I could just have it. What do you think that tastes like? So you see that brown bar, right? How many people out there thought, I'll bet you that tastes like blank. And they were actually thinking about it in their head. Cause I was like, man, what could that taste like? Not good. Not good. Yeah. It's like lemons. No, it's not like lemons.
All I
Certainly not
know
like
is
lemons.
that, look, if they just put together a great little marketing campaign on TikTok, they would have all
Oh
the
yeah,
suckers
make it
out
like
there.
the grasshopper challenge.
You know, they'd be like,
Eat a cicada bug. Yeah, well, hey, dude, at least it ain't Tide Pods, you know? We got that
Yeah,
going. So
right.
as long as it's not Tide Pods, we're yes. Oh well, that's the brain just gave me that grasshoppers are actually toxic. Please don't eat grasshoppers. They chitin. Yes, they have a toxin in them called chitin. Did anybody know that? I didn't know that.
No, and
Okay.
you know what? I probably wouldn't want to eat one anyways after it's been in a field full of pesticides.
That's
So,
right. It's a Monsanto
yeah.
pesticide. Yeah, yeah, you're right about
All right.
that. So it's okay. So you got the idea about the debt. It's not good, right? No.
Right.
So the only way to make that go away is to tax it away or tax it away and introduce austerity measures, or tax it away, introduce austerity measures, and even more austerity measures. Yes, because that's basically what they're doing. Now they're going after the gig workers. And the reason why I say that is because you look at the last, 10 years or even 5 years. Ken, did you ever think that when YouTube started and we were using it as a platform for change and things like that, did you ever see it morphing into what it is today, where people are making millions, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, putting themselves online and putting it out there? I mean, I never envisioned that monetization would get like that.
No, I knew it was big from the get go. Honestly, because I was in it and I seen how it was building and the other like social medias and other video sites where they were just lacking. I don't know what it was. It was a good draw because I think they had a lot of social kind of side to it back then when they started. And yeah, when they actually sold it to Google, I was like, oh, they ain't
Yeah,
buy
that
it
was a
just to
sad that
have
was a
it.
sad day.
Yeah, I knew it was all over. It was like, yeah, things are gonna change. But they ended up, yeah, with the revenue stream and stuff like that, which I kind of thought would come because I knew they're gonna have to make some kind of a deal. But the more they focused in on that, the more of the social side of YouTube, where it was like, we had groups where you could chat, talk, just like you would on a Facebook or anywhere else, sharing
Right.
videos within the group, or all kinds of things that they had in there that were way better. But they started slowly taking all of those out one
Yep.
by one, and then next thing you know, oh, then all these videos that's been up for 15 years, all of a sudden, you
Poof.
know, yeah, they're gone. They're gone.
Yep.
Bill Gates talking about the vaccination stuff. They told that was the last one they got from me, and they yeah, for some kind of medical stuff, and they took the video off of there. And I was like, it was nothing but of Bill Gates talking. He said it, I didn't. you know.
You are spreading misinformation,
Yeah.
Mr. Kenneth Webb, and but no, I mean, look, it is interesting, right? How things have evolved, and I think like Joe said, you have people that now like their entire career is based off of being like a social media influencer or a streamer or something like that, and that these people have a lot of influence and sway over the population, right? And it used to not be like that, but now, like you said, with the way the monetization is, if you're streaming on Twitch, if you're streaming, YouTube used to never be a streaming website, but now they've jumped into they've been doing it for years now, and so I think it's like we've talked about before, right? Where when there wasn't really much of an incentive due to monetization, it was easier to kind of organically get information out there and whatnot. But now that they have implemented a system to where you pretty much have to depend on them as a revenue source to do what you to do what you want to do.
That's what I
how
did. That's what I did. I did full time YouTube, and
Right.
I made enough
Right.
revenue, paid the bills, and all of that. And it wasn't too bad on my level, from even the suppression, that they first started giving. But after a while, slowly but surely, it went down
But
to
they can
that
just
all it went from making a living to oh crap, I'm only making 2 cents a day. Now how in the
right.
world
They
does
they
that
cut they cut the rug.
Yeah.
They cut the
Yeah.
rug from everyone.
That's
right?
what they did. They
They
pull it out from underneath everybody because that's where the power was. They got people, I don't want to say hooked, but they got people dependent on
yeah, they got people
on-
dependent on the platform
was their
and
job.
on that system, right?
yeah. Again,
But
good
but then
work.
they'll have something that they'll push up there, but they've always done it. They push their favorites up. YouTube is always, even under the original creators of it, they did that. But of course, they really do it now. It's like you can. So I never envisioned this. What you were talking about earlier, Joe, about envisioning. It is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I never envisioned that. Somebody could just get on there and just knock himself upside the head with a hammer or something a bunch of times and do a bunch of different videos like that, and then all of a sudden they're promoted. They get all this ad revenue for doing it. And I'm just being metaphorical
Right.
about the
Mind-
stupidity,
mindless, yeah.
right? Just of the stupidity that I'm like, wow. I I remember thinking years ago, like, oh my goodness, gamers are watching other gamers play the game instead of playing it themselves. I was like, I'm
Right.
thinking so bad, but I got into it
Oh,
too.
I
I
would've
ain't gonna
never-
lie.
Yeah, everybody
Oh,
does.
wow.
Yeah,
Cool,
see,
man.
I was gonna say I'll sit and I'll watch somebody play a game.
I
Oh,
know,
yeah,
but it
me
was
too.
very strange. I would have never imagined,
Yeah.
back before that, going like, yeah, I'm gonna make videos of myself playing video games that other
Yeah,
gamers can
no.
watch.
Never.
I mean,
Never.
that stuff's
Right,
insane.
that you can make a career out of sitting there playing video games and have just people sitting there watching you play it. That's kind of a wild
and raking
concept to think
in
about.
millions and millions,
Right,
and
right.
some of those cats, man, they're hitting every time they put a video of it's 30, 40 million hits or something like that. And I'm like, great time of day. The ad revenue off of that one video alone. Phew,
So
it's crazy, crazy. The
and
internet went
so they made a
totally
lot of
berserk, didn't
they
they?
made a lot of people, and they also destroyed a lot of people along the way.
Right.
And so, well, after a while, uh, the government's going to get wind of that, and people like that, a lot of them didn't think to file it on their tax returns because they didn't really get anything for it, or they may have got like a 1099, but whatever, Well, this is out of the Epoch Times. It says the IRS is getting ready to retrieve potentially hundreds of millions of dollars from Americans who failed to file tax returns. And it says here that this effort is aimed at boosting tax revenue from the taxpayers not filing returns for several years, with the initiative expected to net quite a bit, almost $400 million. They're thinking. It's announced February 29th, so a couple days ago, and it's focusing on 125,000 cases of taxpayers with annual incomes of over 400,000 who didn't file taxes between 2017 and 2021. So, and you think about that, that's about the time that the YouTube and the TikTok sensation started going. TikTok was probably just starting then, or just starting to take hold, but it didn't really take off for the last few years.
I just watched something about this actually, which is very interesting. And this is where they're going to rake in a lot of cash. And this is what a lot of people also need to kind of realize is that, yeah, Joe, we have people that are streaming on YouTube and streaming on Twitch and doing that, and they may have been doing that for quite a few years and not filing taxes or whatever. But you know what? That might pale. That might pale in comparison to where the real money from this is going to come from. And it has to do with a very degenerate state that our society is in right now.
Yep.
But think about all of those OnlyFans girls out
Oh
there
my
that
God.
have been raking in thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a month. That have not been reporting that on their taxes.
And quite a few of them have, because if you notice, a lot of the squatters, say down in Atlanta and other major cities, if you notice, a lot of them are OnlyFans. they're filming on OnlyFans in these squatted houses. It's nuts.
Right.
So let me go off and let me tell you this here. It says the IRS said that it was tipped off by various types of third-party information, indicating that these taxpayers received taxable income but failed to file a return.
Joe, I have inside knowledge on these tips. These tips were coming from 4chan. These tips were coming from 4chan. There was an organized effort, from what I've heard, that, because we have all of these e-girls and these OnlyFans girls running around, this culture of OnlyFans girls, there was a little bit of an operation put together saying, hey, maybe we need to report some of these girls to the IRS and, and you're muted up.
There's that. There's artificial intelligence, right? Because you
Right.
can have AI go and comb all the records and start flagging things here and there. And I'm sure that's exactly what's happened, because I know states use that. Now,
And so I guarantee
quite
in
a
this
bit.
article when it refers to that the IRS was receiving tips and all of this stuff,
It's all
that this was
4chan
part
based, you
of.
think?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is involved or has to do with that. So
information on these taxpayers indicate total financial activity of over $100 billion. And even with a conservative estimate, the IRS believes hundreds of millions of dollars of unpaid taxes are involved in these cases. So, and that's what they said in their February 29th statement. So, starting next week, the IRS is going to send letters known as CP59 notices to the affected taxpayers at a rate of about 20,000 to 40,000 per week.
ooh, there's going to be a lot of OnlyFans girls that are not going to be very happy.
Not happy. So the agency warned that people who receive the letters should immediately take action to avoid higher penalties and increasing stronger enforcement measures. The penalty of failure to pay is 5% of the amount owed each month, up to a maximum of 25% of the tax bill. And roughly 25,000 of those cases involve taxpayers who made over $1 million in income, while around 100,000 of them pertain to non-filers with income between $400,000 and $1 million. And in all cases, the IRS was tipped off by way of third-party information, including through forms W-2s and 1099s that people received incomes with the above ranges between the tax years 2017 to 2021. Exactly what you're saying, Scotty. And that's a great example. So, and some of these non-filers have multiple years included in each case. So the total number of taxpayers targeted by the new initiative will be smaller, really, than the roughly 125,000 letters sent out. But this is the attack
and
that we've been expecting on the gig economy.
Right, and like you said, I mean, it's not just the OnlyFans girls, but I know that that's going to be a very significant a portion of it, and it's streamers and whatnot. And of course, I mean, look at me. I mean, but look, I'm a libertarian. I'm a free market guy. I mean, I think taxation is theft to begin with. Whatever transaction between two consenting adults is between them and the money exchanged. It's not the government's place to take any of that money. So, it might. Yeah, I don't care, but. I do think it's kind of funny though how this was kind of like a 4chan organized thing, and it actually did get the IRS kind of going, how much money is being raked in by all these people streaming online and all these OnlyFans girls and all that. That's an untapped source of of income there. So
no doubt, and we knew it was coming because I'd say probably about 6 months ago, they put out that, the gig economy is going to get whacked. And boy, oh boy,
right.
they're starting high. Thank God for that. And they'll work their way down.
Yep.
They'll work their way down.
They sure will. There's no doubt about that. They're going to get it and then poof, it's gone. They spin it. As quick as that.
Yeah. It's so bad, man. It's so terrible. So the new compliance crackdown, this is it. The IRS announced 4 initiatives in October that target high income, high wealth individuals, as well as large corporations. And one of these thrusts is focused on U.S. subsidiaries of foreign companies that distribute goods in the United States but don't pay enough tax. These foreign companies, they report losses or exceedingly low margins year after year through the improper use of transfer pricing to avoid reporting an appropriate amount of U.S. profit. So the second initiative was the IRS Large Business and International Division's Large Corporate Compliance Arm, which is being expanded, of course, and will be auditing an additional 60 big corporations with assets worth over $24 billion on average. And if you remember right, when the Trump tax cuts went through, we had the largest or highest corporate tax rate in the industrialized world in the West. And Trump lowered that down. I think it was to 21%. And before it was up as high as like 30 something. I can't remember what it was, but it was nuts. That's not saying that these big corporations need a break, because they don't. What ends up happening is, take BlackRock, for example. they take all that money and they go and they buy up all the housing to create an artificial shortage. And then they gouge everybody on rents. And now you have a cost of living crisis there. You know, there's so many. Oh, right. Yeah. There was a little like a manufactured house, tiny, and it was like $1.2 million in Montana. You know, you're not talking like New York City or
No.
Los Angeles. $1.2 million for a tiny little
Wow.
house on a
Come
tiny
on,
piece
Joe.
of land.
That is
Come on,
that's
Joe. You're
insane. In Montana.
You're
Montana.
You're paying for the views, Joe. You're paying for the views and
Look, man,
and that lovely fresh Montana air.
if you saw that house, you would see what view are you thinking about? What? There's no view there.
Right.
1.2 million. That's crazy. He even said, the owner even said, I may even take it as high as 2 because I know I'll get it. $2 million. Crazy.
Wow.
So there's money. We just don't have it. All these billionaires and control freaks have it. And the other one that has it, the other sector of at least in the United States, is the baby boomers. So the baby boomers are now basically all in or getting close to, if not, retired. And they are sitting on probably the most wealth of any generation that has come before them or will come after them. So you take a look at that. There's going to be a lot of inheritance as these baby boomers pass away and they inherit it, and that inheritance trickles down to the tune, they say, $62 trillion. $62 trillion is the number that they say the baby boomers are sitting on. That is a potential revenue stream. This is the IRS. They have meetings about this, folks. This is what they talk about. Well,
IRS is like, that's a
the baby
juicy,
boomers are going to pass
juicy,
away.
yeah, we're waiting for
I
that.
mean, can you imagine having to think this shit up on a daily basis? How the hell, folks, how can we rob folks of more of their money? I need a report on my desk tomorrow morning on this. I just can't. It's crazy. The third initiative involves cracking down on abuse of corporate tax breaks that was repealed several years ago, while the fourth targets individual taxpayers who make over $1 million in annual income and have over $250,000 in recognized tax debts. So while the IRS has repeated and again that its new enforcement crackdown won't target Americans earning less than $400,000, a watchdog said that, yeah, that's not going to happen. They'll break that promise. So the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, which is the watchdog that oversees the IRS, said in a September report that the IRS would have a hard time making good on its pledge of $400,000 because the agency doesn't have a clear definition of high income. And many of its tax enforcers still use an outdated $200,000 threshold as their default. So you take it for what it's worth, but you have a government that is increasingly more desperate for funds. And as interest rates remain elevated, or as they maintain this level of debt in a time when they say that the economy is booming, which we know it's not, right? And they know it's not, but they're going to tell you it is. What ends up happening is you're going to have less and less and less people that are going to be available to buy the debt. Right now, the biggest purchaser of the debt is us through the Social Security Trust Fund. The Social Security Trust Fund owns about, I think, almost $20 trillion in debt. So you take a look at countries like China and you take a look at Japan. Those are like the top 2 foreign countries that buy our debt or have bought our debt. It pales in comparison. They may have $2 trillion. China might have 3. We have 20. what happens when the government has to default? The real people that are going to be hurt is us in more ways than one. One being austerity, right? Because they're going to have to, once you default, you have to basically say, okay, well, the rest of the world's not going to want to do business with us unless we pay an exorbitant amount to overcome the risk that they see associated with it. So now we got to do everything internal. Well, we have the resources. That's not the problem. The problem is we don't have the infrastructure anymore that we had. We used to be the #1 industrialized nation in the world. But when labor got too expensive and free trade agreements came around, guess what? Corporations flew the coop and went overseas. So that industrial base isn't there anymore. And that would take time to build up. But if you do that in a time of austerity and crash, you're not going to have all the resources to industrialize unless you federalize everything. And then if you do that, what do you got? You know, that's the problem that I see it like an inevitable, like going down the drain. And there's really no way to fix it unless they find untapped revenue streams, because there's no appetite for tax raising. They tax everything under the sun. You know, you might you might think that you know, the income tax is high, and it is, but you take a look at other countries like the UK, where you have VAT, value added tax, that puts a 21% tax on top of everything else. It's egregious. Everybody's drowning in debt and taxes. There's only going to be so much before people get pissed. And I think we're starting to see it with the trucker revolt and all that stuff. So in hour number 2, we'll talk about what's going on down in Argentina, some of the things with Donald Trump. We'll talk about billionaires and how they're building bunkers at great breakneck speed. All of this stuff. And AI, how that's coming along. And that's a big thing too. And then we'll end it by talking about an alien attack.
Oh, yummy. I always love a good alien attack.
Because, that's kind of, So that just a little spoiler, down in South America, a tribe, not really a tribe, kind of a modernized tribe, if you will, villagers down in South America were attacked by green goblin-like aliens.
Goblin aliens.
Yeah. Now I have a bit of an idea. I have an idea of what it is, but we'll get into that in hour number 2, because that's crazy. We'll just put it that way. It's nuts. And then, of course, some of the medical intervention, the latest with the medical intervention, because there's more medical interventions coming. And, they just got to keep the stream going, man. They got to make money. Nobody's buying the vaccine. Nobody's buying the updated boosters and all that stuff. Nobody wants it. They know it's poison, right? So no one's doing it. And they can try and blame it all they want, but they did it to themselves. They ruined the whole. Actually, people finally caught on, and we're here now. So these medical interventions are going to have a hard time selling them, don't you think?
Oh yeah,
right.
Like the flu, they said the CDC just said, "Oh, treat the COVID like the regular flu." I said, that's what I was saying all along. Seriously. So when I thought, it's like, okay, it's a really strong flu, right? And I might have had it. I don't know.
Get your flu shot. Get your
flu
shot.
Ain't getting no flu shot. I ain't
Get
getting
some
none of
flu
that. I
shot.
ain't getting none of that stuff. I can tell you that, man. No way you gonna make me put. People got to put the black lights on their face, and you can see the little particles under their skin. Y'all see that stuff, man? I saw that. I was like, no way. I ain't gonna put that stuff in my body, Jack.
Oh yeah, man. And they're pulling tubes of freaking.
Did y'all check yourself? Did y'all do the black light thing to look? I had to do it after I seen that video.
I'm not doing it.
I'm
good. I was scared.
Hey, I got a black light behind me. I got some UV lights behind me. I'm good. I check myself.
Yeah, Scotty, he bathed himself in UV and everything on a daily basis, so he's sterilized. He's good. So yeah, so hour number 2, that'll be good. We'll talk about that. I think it's interesting that there's a lot. We're back in that. It's an election year, and you're going to have
Right.
people that are going to put forth some boy who cried wolf scenarios. And all I can tell you is, remember this. If you take away anything from the Freedom Link, just remember this. It never happens the way you think it's going to happen. No matter how good clairvoyant you might be, it's going to come out of left field, something that you would never, ever, ever think of or dream up of. So if you can think about it, it ain't going to happen. All right?
Whatever it is, it's going to be mayhem. That's all I know. Warmer weather, because you ever notice the summertimes on the election year? Oh, man, it's going to be off the hinges out there.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely. That you can kind of predict, right? Is there going to be civil unrest? Yeah, more probable than not. There's going to be civil unrest. Is it they're going to play every card in the book that they can? Of course they are. They're going to do it because that's what they do, right? But any of these major events, like they talk about invasions or the Russians are going to use our tactical nuclear weapons or all that.
Those landmark events, the big ones,
Yeah, just remember those landmark ones. That never happens the way you think it's going to happen,
and you never expect it. I mean, you could we think and theorize about all of these things, a possibility and everything, but when things happen, it's always out of the cut. It's like, oh, what?
The only guy I've known that ever called something like that was Alex Jones. When he was talking about 9/11 6 months before it happened.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Cooper touched a base on a lot of that stuff as well early on.
Oh yeah, Bill Cooper.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But those are the only two guys that I know that ever nailed it like that, and that's because they did the research and figured it out through the planning documents and all this other crap that no one really.
Corporation and all that. Stuff,
I get it, but they wised up to that now, so it doesn't. It never happens the way you think it's going to happen. So, just one of those things. Just always take that kind of stuff. Don't take it too seriously. But when you see the billionaires building their bunkers, you know that something's coming. You just don't know what it is, right? That's kind of how I look at it. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about that because they're all building them. There's even documentaries on them, like in the Ozarks and things like that. They're building all these castles and these in the mountains, and there's a bank for every 80 people out there. It's absolutely crazy. We got to go to break, but when we come back, more Freedom Link, hour number 2. So don't go away. KGRADB.com. We'll be right back.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Well, it's hour number 2 of the Freedom Link. Scotty's here. Ken Webb is here. And man, I'll tell you what. The billionaires are building their bunkers. And they're doing it at breakneck speed. So remember, hour number 1, we talked about the debt. We talked about how things are hockey sticking, kind of getting out of the control of these control freaks. They always talk about the Great Reset, but I think that's going to be a little more of a challenge trying to pull something off like that, unless you really have some sort of collapse that would force people to be, shall we say, convinced that it's the right thing to do. So you've got people out there kind of fighting back. You also got, like I say, the billionaires building their bunkers. Before we get to the bunkers, I got to bring up Mr. Milei down in Argentina. So he went and introduced his omnibus bill. And of course, as soon as he did, all of the like the labor unions and everybody, you got to remember the labor unions run Argentina. They run it through the Congress. They're Peronist in nature. President Kirchner, she was a Peronist. They took that country, which used to be the #1 economy in the Western Hemisphere, and they took it and they trashed it. They destroyed it. And it all centers around socialism. It doesn't work on a macro scale. Why? Corruption. Corruption is just rampant in every one of those systems, because the haves will always take away from the have-nots. It's never enough. You think about it, right? And this is a great way to think about it. A guy by the name of Kent Hovind taught me this a long time ago. And he says, you know, the people that love shoes are never satisfied with more shoes. The people that like speed are never satisfied with more speed. But most importantly, the people that love money are never satisfied with more money. It never stops. It's a hunger that's never sated. It's a hole that can't be filled. And so it just goes on and on and on, and they'll do anything that they can do to ensure that that stream stays a-flowing, if you will. And Milei's going down there to try. He was elected to fix it, and he was quite open. He was quite open about it, that it's going to suck. It is absolutely going to suck to have to pull a country that's bankrupt with 250% inflation. You think 2.9%? Well, let's be real. 15%, 20% inflation. Do you think that that's as bad as 250% inflation? Think about that. You buy something 1 year, and a year later, it's 2.5 times more than it was last year. I mean, that's terrible. So, of course, it's raised the poverty rate in Argentina to upwards of 60%. And Mr. Millay here is having himself a hard time running up against the labor unions to be able to do it. So now you're seeing an argument that echoes something we saw in the United States pre-World War II, post-Great Depression. And that was, you had incredible suffering here in the United States. You have incredible suffering down in Argentina. You had a president in Hoover that didn't see or believe that the government was the proper body, if you will, to come to the rescue for what ailed us during the Great Depression. He thought it was up to charities and corporations to kind of pitch in to help everybody, to lift everybody up. And it didn't happen on a scale that was necessary to help lift everybody up. Therefore, he got voted out of office in one term. And then you had Franklin Roosevelt come in. Now, Franklin Roosevelt was a polar opposite of Hoover in that he believed that the government was the primary mode of helping to raise the level of well-being in society, and went about instituting in his first 100 days many, many, many different programs, a lot of which were struck down as unconstitutional. But basically, they threw everything to the wall, hoping that something would stick. A few things did. One of them was he wanted to expand the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court kept striking down all his programs. Well, that didn't sit well with a bunch of control freaks, primarily like the DuPont family, the Bush family, the Fords, the Guggenheims, the Rockefellers, and they conspired to basically install a fascist dictatorship in the United States. And it's not something a lot of people know. It's not something that's in our history books. But there was a committee, the McCormick-Dickstein Committee, that was put into place that investigated it to some extent before the money was pulled away from it, and it was shuttered before things could get too out of hand and too many people in high places were trashed. And the reason why they shuttered it, it was because it was so bad. There were so many people involved that they felt it would do more damage to put it out there and seek justice than to just sweep it under the rug, make it go away, and slap them on the wrist. And that's exactly what happened. So you look at what Millay's doing now, it's very much like what Roosevelt did, but 180 degrees out, where he's saying it's not the role of government. He's playing the Hoover role and saying it's about a free market. You have to let the free market dictate the economy.
Right.
A libertarian stance on it. I don't think Hoover ever had a chance to really do anything because it really happened in the last year. It happened during an election year. That's about as bad as it's going to get.
Right.
You go and look a little further, those same families that were involved in that were the ones that supported Hitler to put Hitler in power in Germany. All of those families were pro-Nazi or pro-Hitler and secretly funded him. You know, you had the Warburg family, Paul Warburg, as the CEO of IG Farben, now Bayer, who were exterminating all the people in concentration camps. They were involved at every single level, some more passive than others, but all involved nonetheless. Prescott Bush's assets were seized under the Trading with the Enemies Act. And the only reason why he wasn't prosecuted was because they could not find a good path to prosecute the founder of the USO after World War II, and do so in a way that wouldn't mess the country up. They thought, oh man, this is bad. Everybody thinks that thinks of the USO as like this big, and it is. It's a great organization, but you take the founder of that, you're going to trash them like that. Oh my God, it's not going to go good. So what did they do?
Isn't it interesting how everything comes full circle, right? Because where did a lot of the former Nazis run off to after the war? Oh, Argentina. So it's and so it's just it's interesting how all of this is played out.
That's right. So anyway, Malay, if you see here, this is France 24. He basically said, we're going to change the country for good, with or without the support of political leaders, with all the legal resources of the executive. He says, if you look for conflict, you will have conflict. And that's basically, it says here, the recap of his first 82 days in office, where he devalued the peso 50%. He slashed the state subsidies. He just recently closed down the main so in Argentina, the main news outlet is state run, and it has been since Perón instituted it in 1945. He just cut it off. He's like, man, this is bad. It's like all the labor unions are using it as a propaganda platform. We're closing it. Took the funding away. That's exactly what has to happen. That's exactly what has to happen. It says here, I ask for patience and trust, he says. It'll be some time before we can perceive the fruit of the economic reorganization and the reforms we're implementing. And he's right. Nothing is going to happen. And I remember, Ken, you remember the Ron Paul revolution and how he would talk about, in order to reverse the damage, you have to go through a period of pain. It's going to suck for a couple of years to straighten everything back out. I don't know if it's a couple of years now. $34 trillion. I don't think that's a bill that's going to be very hard to overcome. I don't know. Do you think that we could have a guy like a Malay come in and turn things around, or is it too late?
Oh, I don't know, because what we're seeing and what we're hearing about, the information that we get, I think it's a lot worse than we even think it is. Really, I think it's a lot worse.
Yeah.
Than it is. But can it be turned around? Yeah, we got. I mean, just like them, they have a lot of natural gas. They got all kinds of resources there in their country that they could turn around and turn a profit. It's all about who runs the country, who can control it, and somebody taking over like that to take, grab the bull by the horns and do what needs to be done. Because country's like a business. You want to make money, you want to take care of your workers, which are the people here, and the better you do that, the better the economy is going to be.
How do you do it? How do you do it with the amount of social welfare that people are dependent on?
I would think go into a certain direction. Start off with the things that we know we can turn around, things that we can, they could get rid of in their country, like the same thing as our country, that we could get rid of, that we don't need. The Festivus thing, that's gone. We don't need all that wasted stuff.
Oh, right, yeah, that's right. Come on.
No, that's gone. That's a wrap on it. We could cut so much, and make for ourselves and be an exporter of energy again. Things like that in our country, which they could do the same thing in their country with all the resources they have.
Right.
Just started going in a direction, but could we turn it around? No, because there's always people there who want to mess it up for us. Can't just do it the right way. They want it all and they want it now. That's what it is.
Right.
It kills me. It's just like, come on. We could all, just imagine, like we talk about, the homeless and people starving and stuff like that. And it's like, you just go to a daggone any of your all-you-can-eat buffet restaurants. Plenty of food out there. It's just how it's being handled and managed. There's plenty of stuff.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways, things that we could fix before we would even have to consider touching some of the social safety nets and whatnot, right? Like, dude, you could reallocate like 2% of the defense budget, and that would be like,
could you imagine, like, solve the housing crisis? That's right.
Solve the housing crisis with like 2% of the defense budget.
We're gonna close half of our military bases, just half. Not all of them.
Right.
But
You
we
know, I
have
mean, just
over 900 bases in over 160 countries. Let's close
you want
half.
to talk about being able to like actually redistribute wealth to where it really needs to go and money where it needs to go, right? I mean,
Exactly.
you look at where our priorities are at as far as where money is funneling into and where it's going to, and yeah, I mean, we could literally solve like almost 100% of our problems. You know.
It reminds me
me
of when Pope Francis went into the homeless shelter the time he got elected on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and he goes out and he's everybody's kissing the ring and all that, and he's handing out sleeping bags, 24 of them. 24 sleeping bags. You got a guy sitting on riches beyond your wildest dreams, priceless stuff, all the gold. Look at St. Peter's. We got meltdown St. Peter's Cathedral. I get it. It's old. It's history. Take pictures of it, okay? Take pictures. And we melt it all down and we sell it and we scrap it and solve world hunger. You know what I mean? We could do that. We could do that. That's just one example. It's a little extreme. I get it, but it's one example. You could do that. Ron Paul used to say, well, you know what? Department of Education. Here's a great statistic here for you. So 1953, the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare was established. And so at that time, the United States was by far and away the #1 country in the world in reading, in writing, and in science, or reading, arithmetic, and science. And you fast forward it to, say, 2018, and you guys can look this up. Anybody can look this up. OECD. The OECD is a UN-based organization that measures this stuff. They rank all the countries by, a measured of standardized testing. And I think we were like 26th in the world in reading, and like 31st in the world in math, and 36th in the world in science. So we just plummeted. Government took over and it destroyed it. Government takes over social welfare and they destroy it. Everything they put their hands on, they destroy. It turns to crap, right? And that's the thing. It looks good. It sounds good on the surface. But whenever you have an organization or a country that's so big, and that's why I always say socialism is great on a micro, real small, where you can keep tabs on everybody who has a job that's a part of that system. If it gets too big and you lose sight of people, you will have corruption and it will bankrupt you and it will destroy your organization from the inside out. It spreads like a cancer. Look at China. China has cancer cities. 100% of their cancer villages, 100% of their inhabitants get cancer or have cancer. 100%. Think about that for a second. Think about that. They're more concerned with profits than the health and well-being of their own neighbors. You know what I mean? And it's like they're killing themselves over there. Yeah, that's right. That's right. It is. It's a polluted mess. And it's all because of greed, right? But then you got the pendulum swing the other way over here. We can't make anything because we're so bogged down in regulation. And those regulations are put in place from these NGOs and like the Sierra Club and all that. They get kickbacks for every freaking green project that goes on. It's all money shit, you ring knocking and handshakes and behind closed doors. It's all that stuff. And it's because the system, the United States, the corporation is too big. It's too bloated. and you can't keep tabs on the level of people, on the amount of people that are out there, and it inherently gets corrupted. It's terrible, but it's a fact. It happens every single time. Every single time. So that's why you have people like Mark Zuckerberg, like the Walton family, that have decided that they don't like the way things are going, and they're building their bunkers. They're building their bunkers.
I wonder how much their bunkers cost too. I bet you these things are strapped. Probably got pools in them, got full nightclubs. They probably got all kinds of stuff
Oh,
up in
yeah.
there.
Check it out. Check it out here. It says in a December 2023, this is fizz.org. Billionaires are building bunkers and buying islands, and they're prepping for the apocalypse or pioneering a new feudalism. So it says here, Wire reported that Mark Zuckerberg, the billionaire CEO of Meta and one of the foremost architects of today's social media dominated world, has been buying up large swaths of the Hawaiian island Kauai. And Priscilla Chan and Zuckerberg, that's husband and wife, they're making the Kulau Ranch, which will most likely cost over $400 million to complete. The estate stretches over 5.5 million square meters, is surrounded by a 2-meter wall, and is patrolled by numerous security guards driving quad bikes on nearby beaches. Hundreds of local Kauaians who work on the property, but precisely how many, you don't know. And anything they do, covered by a non-disclosure agreement. You know? Yeah, you can't do that as a regular citizen. Wired subheading hones in on the Zuckerberg Kalau Ranch includes plans for the massive underground bunker. Seems to be the detail that piques everybody's interest, right? Doomsday bunkers are becoming a common sight, it says here, and pop culture. You've got The Last of Us. You've got Tales from the Walking Dead. You've got the Netflix film Leave the World Behind. And at the same time, you got the public interest. There have been preppers for years that have been building bunkers in their places, you know. But the Zuck, he's got quite a pad.
And now, I wonder, is that the same Hawaiian island that the fire took place on?
Don't know. I don't know.
I don't know.
Would it surprise you?
No, it wouldn't surprise me because I remember that was a thing that was being talked about when the fire did occur, is because a lot of people were talking about how Oprah and the Zuck owned a lot of land around that area. So
you know what? Yeah. You know what it says? It says here that the property, several oversized mansions are on it with a combined footprint of a football field. So that's the size of the mansions, pretty big. Has at least 11 tree houses connected by rope bridges, machinery dedicated to water purification, desalination, and storage. It's got its own power plant. And it's also got a indoor grow house that can make between 5,000 to 10,000 pounds of food a year. And so much more. It's crazy. You look at Larry Ellison, Oracle CEO, same thing. He's got a private Hawaiian island, and same thing, doing the same thing. Oprah Winfrey, she bought a 163-acre estate in Maui back in 2002. And she's buying land a little bit at a time, nice and quiet, like, to where now she has over 650,000 square meters of land out there. Like I said, Larry Ellison, he bought the Hawaiian island Lanai back in 2012. And then Frank Vandersloot, the billionaire, he purchased a 2,000-acre ranch just south of Zuckerberg. Sergey Brin, he has his own island. I think it's out like New Zealand way. It's out in the Pacific. They're all doing it. And then, of course, you have the Waltons building their bunkers in the Ozarks, and many more. You can look that up. There's some crazy, and I don't know if they're on YouTube. you have to kind of do a little search for yourself.
Sounds like a lot of these cats don't want to be on the mainland when whatever happens, right? They want to be like off, isolated in the Pacific somewhere.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, makes you wonder.
I'm trying to see if I can find some of those videos that I saw on these bunkers, and specifically the Ozark one, because man, it was crazy.
Yeah, I remember like there was a lot of activity of them, building stuff in the Ozarks or different,
Whenever I hear, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, every time I think about that, people, especially all those top cats, getting stuff like that off, it always make me think, man, they know a meteorite gonna hit us. I mean, an asteroid or something's gonna crash into the planet in like 10, 15 years. It's like almost you think, did they know something, or they just, it might be a fad for them. Well, I got my underground bunker. Look, something like that.
Me and Joe have talked about this quite a bit. Where, I think the elite, the powers that shouldn't be, I think that they have a pretty good understanding, or they have some knowledge of something that is coming down the pike, something that is going to occur, at some point, that is going to be some kind of a catastrophic event. And, obviously,
yes,
they don't want to inform the population, obviously, because of mass panic and outright chaos, but I think that they quietly know that something is going to happen. Now, what is it? It could be like you said, Ken. Maybe they know that there's an asteroid that has a trajectory that's coming this way, and they just don't want to tell anybody about it, right? And they're just gonna silently kind of prepare and hope that maybe they're the ones that are able to survive, be the ones to emerge from the bunker and restart civilization or whatever, who knows. But or they know that something crazy could happen, like a pole flip, right? We've been talking about the magnetic poles drifting and acting weird, over the past 5-10 years or so. Maybe they know that something crazy like that's going to happen, and that maybe the pole's going to flip, and we're going to see a lot of natural disasters and craziness go on with maybe those crust of the planet, shifting or whatever. Maybe they're pre-planning their position on the planet, right? To where maybe they have this thing gamed out of where they know that the crust is gonna turn. Maybe the planet rotates and moves to a different location, who knows? But
there's a lot of consensus on a cataclysm coming.
Right. And then you also have, not only them building bunkers, but this fascination of getting back out into space and getting to Mars, getting off the planet. Why is there such a rush for that? A lot of the, explanation for it is, well, it's private corporations now, and space is an untapped, economic, development, a resource for, economic development and mining asteroids in the future and stuff like that. But I think there's more to it. There seems to be this crazy rush to get off the planet and to establish a colony or whatever on Mars,
which is insane, because if you think about it, right? What happens?
And who are going to be the first people? Okay, like so say we get to Mars, we get a colony going, we get this private space sort of a gig going, to where we have these corporations, running people back and forth between Earth and Mars, let's say, in the future. We make it that far, right? In the beginning, who are going to be the people that are going to be able to afford that the very top, tippity top echelon of society are going to be the only ones that are going to be able to afford to book a trip to Mars, right? And
why would you, out of curiosity, why would you want to? Why would you want to? Because you think about it, right? We know something is going on because whatever's going on is affecting all of the planets, not just us.
Right.
So leaving to another planet in the solar system is not going to save you, because you're going to be, if anything, probably more susceptible to problems, the same ones affecting the Earth. That's going to make it tilt
just
90
like if
degrees
you're
or do whatever.
Right, just like if you're running to a bunker and a tsunami overtakes where your underground bunker is. It ain't gonna
you gotta
help
breathe,
you very
don't
much.
you?
Right, so they think that they think that they're God and that they can play God and that they're above God and that they're immune to everything, and that whatever they do is they're going to be the survivors of the situation. They know better than everyone, and that they can cheat death, and that they can continue all of this going. So yeah, let them run around, let them build their little bunkers, let them try to fly off to Mars and whatever. But hey, if the sun decides it wants to shoot off an X10 whatever flare and just fry the atmosphere of not only Earth but whatever else in the solar system, it ain't gonna help you, right? And so
it's not going to help you. And they're getting more and more brazen. A lot of their tactics. Remember, all of this, you've got people with a lot of different resources that have access to a lot of cutting edge technology, stuff that only the government could have, or maybe they have. You have to remember that it far exceeds anything that we have. So here's another interesting thing, and I want to spend some time with this because I think that we've seen over the course of, say, the last 70 to 100 years, a lot of UFO sightings that are attributed to foreign or space aliens or something like that, right? When in reality, probably humans with an advanced level of technology. And so there's a mining community, a village down in the Amazon, and last year during the summer there was a spat of attacks, and a 15-year-old girl was attempted to be kidnapped, and they swear it's aliens that are doing it, and they describe them as like Green Goblin type, tall, wearing that body armor on a floating platform, and they're actually like attacking the villagers, and in some cases taking them, and they're not seeing these people again, right? The government says the government says that it's not aliens at all. Instead, it's just miners with jetpacks. Now, how many miners have you seen wear jetpacks? And furthermore, typically when you mine something, you're doing it in the ground, not in the air. What the hell do they need jetpacks for?
See, they don't even try anymore to tell people. They just make something up. Yeah, it was some miners on jetpacks. That's what it was.
Jetpacks.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you, this is a real story. And it started in northern Peru. The villagers belong to a group called the Iquitu tribe. They say they've seen these strange tall figures floating in the air. They're taller than 6 feet, and they can't be hurt by weapons. These guys, they're villagers, but they're kind of modern villagers, almost like
Right.
I would equate them to say like, you know, like the people
Like a
that live
clan of people
in in Alaska. You know
Right.
how you have like the
indigenous group.
the
kind of
indigenous,
thing.
exactly. They
Right.
have electricity. They live in houses. They
What kind
got
of weapons do they
guns.
have? Oh, they
They
got guns?
They got shotguns and rifles. They got all that stuff.
Okay, so they saying that they are not affecting the
Yeah,
goblin thing.
didn't affect them. Didn't affect them. So the villagers asked the police to protect them. The police came and said that these tall figures aren't aliens at all. They're just miners using special equipment and jetpacks. Now, a jetpack's a device that lets you fly using a very powerful engine. They're not quiet. Jetpacks are not quiet. They're
And
noisy.
who has jetpacks? I mean, like
They're expensive.
Exactly. I don't know no whole group of people. I don't even know one person got a jetpack.
No, and here's the other thing: they need a lot of fuel. Jets, they use a lot of fuel. So no one on this earth has ever heard of a miner using a jetpack.
I know, like what are they doing? Here, Greg, put on the jetpack and go plant this TNT on the side of the mountain. You know, oh,
right.
Man, I
so
don't know.
so on July 29th last year, these aliens who are on quiet, hovering platforms that when you shoot them, they don't get killed, are swooping down and trying to take people. And this isn't the only place where they've been seen.
And they're attacking them. And they're attacking them too.
And
right?
they're attacking them
Right,
too.
yeah.
Yeah. So I got a theory on that. And where I first heard this story was Redacted on YouTube. And you got to check that channel out only because he does
a good channel.
Does a lot of good work. And I really like the stuff he puts out. The theory that's being put out there is they're rich people that have their henchmen that put on their special suits and on their floaty devices, right? Almost like, during World War II, they had flying saucers. The Nazis were messing with anti-grav and counter-rotating mercury to defy gravity. The Foo Fighters, things like that, right? Not the band, but the actual floating balls that all the B-17 pilots saw all the time. So this technology exists. It has existed for some time. We just don't have access to it because we're not worthy. But
so you think it's just some sick?
I think it's organ harvesting. Yeah, I think it's
like
organ
some sick
harvesting.
rich dude that's like out there, or some group of some rich organization that's just going out there and like snatching these indigenous people out of the out of
or
the forest,
harvesting their organs, drinking the blood, all that stuff. Yeah,
right. And and then they're out there, wearing some kind of crazy suit or whatever, and these people don't these people have no clue what they're looking at, right? They have no concept of the
but they're modern. I would say that would be the case if they were like wearing grass skirts and and all that stuff.
Okay, well, yeah.
They're actually
but what I'm saying
is
that they're encountering a technology that they've never seen before, something that they can't explain, and so it's weird, man.
But that's the thing.
They need bigger guns. They need bigger guns. Test that theory out. See how good that suit is. Get them a Barrett 50 caliber sniper rifle. Pop one of them cats from see how tough that suit is.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
I get it.
Now if they stand there and that bullet bounce off and they're just like standing there, oh goodness.
That's what happened. There's nothing. It didn't affect them at all. And that's what's so crazy. But everybody's so quick to say aliens. Look, I've seen enough of Sasquatch now to know that Sasquatch is real. And it's not human. And I've seen enough non-human skeletons and elongated skulls and things and stuff to know that we're not alone. And that prior to the great cataclysm that happened last time, there was different races on this earth. And I'm not talking about black and white in the color of your skin. No, I'm talking about different races. There was humans, There were these elongated skull MFers. There was fuzzy creatures, right? That smell like death, worse than death. So I hear. And but they're very real, and they still exist today. And through the use of technology, we're getting more and more. I don't think that the sightings are happening more frequently. I just think that we're able to capture it now. I think that we're seeing things because we have electronic eyes now that see things for us, whereas before that didn't happen, you know. But you talk about like guys up in Canada trying to build a bridge, and they're making a bunch of noise, and you piss off the Sasquatch, and the Sasquatch goes out one day and takes the cable to the bridge and snaps it in half, you know, and then, oh shit, the bridge is ruined because now that's an expensive ass cable. This guy just snapped it, like bam, snapped it. Yeah. Yeah, to cut them. Right, to cut them. And this guy snapped it. And he was big. And you should hear this whole the government actually put out like a report on it and a news conference, and basically said, well, you know, this person is incredibly tall, very physically fit, probably an outdoorsman of some type. And I'm just like,
he's the ultimate outdoorsman. It's Sasquatch.
Yeah, right.
That's
And so really what it is, yo, man, you pissed me off. Here I was trying to take a nap. I'm trying to sleep in my little wood hut, you know, and you guys are making all this racket. Hells no, I'm coming out here.
Hey, you know,
your shit up.
Going back to this thing in Peru, though, I mean, it is pretty bizarre, you know, and you know, it also, for some reason, it put the image of the Green Goblin in my head. You know,
me too.
Well, that's where they know that, because so the government of Peru put a federal building, if you will, in their village, and so that's where they go to do anything like internet related, because there's an internet, like say a hotspot there. So what you'll see is a bunch of people outside that federal building with their phones, and they're watching movies, or they're watching videos, or they're doing their thing, but it's all around that. And then they have like family nights, if you will, where they watch movies. So they know the Marvel universe, they know the DC universe, they know about all these things. They're up to speed on that. So it's like I said, it's not like they're an indigenous tribe that they've never seen it before. Who it's gods, you know, from the sky. No, it's not like that. They're like, it's a Green Goblin. What the hell? Why are we being attacked by the Green Goblin? This is nuts.
You can, in depicting this, okay, just say it was, you know, one of the miners with a jetpack, or somebody running some kind of operation, you know, for organ harvesting or something like that. But okay, well, these dudes came down, 6 foot tall dudes came down and took the kids, jumped on some kind of floaty thing, and they were gone. You know, I mean, but no, they saying Green Goblins. Okay, this.
Yeah, well, they say that because they had the suit and the helmet, and you couldn't tell who they were. No, I think they said it was silver. They were like armor, but
it's shaped like a goblin,
like tight, like just like the Green Goblin. Yeah, it's nuts. But watch that Redacted. I'm telling you, man, it's a hell of a story. And what was the name of the guy that went down there? Yeah, Timothy Alberino, who used to work with Steve Quayle a lot. He went down there and investigated it for himself. So he's got a lot of footage and a lot of interviews with the people that were there. And
kind of also reminds me of the story, I think it was in the 60s. It's one of the famous sort of alien stories. I think it was like the 60s or 70s, of the people that were like held up in their house, and they literally had like a firefight with these aliens, and it kind of reminds, you know, because they were wearing the silver suits, and they kind of like had a Green Goblin sort of look to them, or aesthetic or something. And it kind of reminds me of that in a lot of the same ways, where they were saying that they were firing bullets at, you know, firing shots at them, and they weren't dying, and things like that. So
yeah, and the people that he talked to, you know, he made sure that he talked to people that didn't know each other, didn't interact with each other, but their stories were consistent across the board. So there was no real variation between them. They all had that commonality. So they weren't lying. They saw this, they experienced it. But they don't know what it is. They think it's aliens. Okay, it's aliens. It doesn't matter. It's screwed up. And it's not miners with jetpacks. That's just straight up ridiculous.
Yeah,
But
it is.
that
Yeah, whatever it is, like you said, regardless of what it is, it's wrong. You figure they would set up some kind of defense or try to get catch one of them mugs up in a net or something and interrogate them.
Think about it. In China,
I'm not gonna sit if I'm there. I'm not gonna sit around and let so much of dudes rolling around with some suits on or green goblins or whatever it is.
Why do I think it's more like that? Because there's examples of governments, right? China openly organ harvests. They have a population of Uyghurs that they go and they harvest their organs out. Here in the United States, for us common folk, if you need an organ transplant, it could take years, if ever, you get an organ before you die. Typically, most people die waiting for an organ. They just don't get it in time because that availability is not there. In China, a month, 30 days, 60. What do you need? I need a liver, man. I drank myself to death. Don't worry. I got just the liver for you. Here, come here. You see this guy right here? Yeah, this guy, he looks like he's got a strong liver.
But here's the question, Joe. Here's the question I have for you. Why do you think that they would go through all of the trouble of using some sort of unknown technology like a hoverboard or something like that just to kidnap some indigenous people, when they could just easily just send in like a group of like ex-military guys or some contractors or whatever to just go in there and kidnap anybody that they wanted? Why go through all the trouble of freaking them out by floating down on some hoverboard and wearing this special armor,
The only thing I could think of is to be seen. It's to actually be seen and have it
to make it such a spectacular, unbelievable event that that
it's not believable.
That it's not believable. Yeah. Something like
that. And it's miners with jetpacks.
That's the only way that these people could describe it, is that somebody flew down or something flew down into I don't know.
Well,
but
think about it, like the cattle mutilations and all that happen that quite often. Why on earth? First of all, if an interdimensional being or somebody from another galaxy far, far away gets here, they obviously have the technology and are advanced enough to where they don't need to do specialized surgery on a cow. And then leave it. It's like, come on, that's
you would think that they would have the ability to just
over years.
Yeah, you would think they would just have the ability to just scan it, right, and get the information that they need. And
I'm thinking, right, at a minimum, and
maybe they wanted the lower branch aliens that ain't advanced enough yet. So they first time here, they're gonna check out the animals on there. Then they do.
I guess.
I don't know. I was just trying to come up with a reason to make that plausible. Why would they do that?
I don't know. Because you think about this.
I think if you're advanced enough to where you've achieved interstellar travel, and you're able to make it to Earth, that you would have the technology to just like run a scan on an animal and know what was inside of it without having to get your hands all nice and dirty and get all up in there and cut them open and all that stuff. So I don't know.
Who is doing that, or what is doing that?
That's the question. Exactly. That's the question. And
because you'd have to be really sick to just go out there and do that to an animal, period. This old human, I'm going to make up this little thing, and they'll come with the news crews and film this or whatever. And but the reason, and it's like, why would you do that to poor cows? So it's got to be something. It can't just be.
What if we're not even dealing? What if we're not even dealing with aliens? What if we're dealing with something supernatural, like demonic, or something like that, right? And so when we get into that realm of conversation, I don't think we can get into the mind of a demon and understand what their motivation is and what they're trying to do. And if you have like these cattle mutilations and animals being all torn up and just weirdness like that. I mean, if we're talking supernatural kind of phenomenon, then I think that's a whole nother can of worms. Other than just aliens coming down and doing it.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, that's why I think it's man. It's man. It's not demonic. Not demonic. It's not aliens. It's man. And it's just rich bitches trying to get their organs or whatever they're trying to do. I think it's pretty sad that we're at that point. I think it's pretty sad that we're at that point in this world, but we are, and people are going to inherently do what people do with money and power. It corrupts, and they think that they have the run of the place, And so what's going to happen? I don't know. It's crazy. The world is going to hell in a handbasket. The world's going to hell in a handbasket.
It's going so crazy, like it could be actual green goblins. I mean, as far as I know, because I wasn't there, right. So I don't know. And the world does get crazy and crazier. So I'm getting to the age as I get older that nothing seems to really catch me off guard. I don't care how crazy it is. I'm just like, that figures, because it's so much, and there's so much we don't know, and we're never gonna know. I mean, just about the planet, things that are here, different levels of the atmosphere. I mean, there's so much, because I know I haven't been everywhere, so I don't know. Like aliens, extraterrestrial aliens, I don't know. I never met one, so never seen one in person, so can't really say. I can only go with the possibilities on the different theories of things, because I really got to understand that I really just don't know for a fact. And so
no one does. No one does. That's
exactly.
That's the thing, and you can think you know it. You can think you know it spot on. You're going to end up knowing that you are nowhere near the truth. And that's why.
How many times have we reached that conclusion? How many times have we reached that? I know.
That's right. That's why you just got to have a humble heart. Just have a humble heart, and Almighty, show me the truth wherever it takes me, and that's where I go. And that's it. That's it. You could debate whether the aliens are real or not. I don't care. It's not going to change the truth one way or another, what you think or what you don't. Just on
them hoverboards, all they knew is that somebody was coming to take it, whether it was the miners, or the leprechauns, or whatever it is on the thing.
I shot that thing, I tell you, about 25 times, and that thing didn't do nothing. I just don't get it. Hey, it happens. The Green Goblins with suits. We're in that day and age. What can I say?
Yep.
And we're almost out of time. 2 hours. Dunsky. Fast.
That was fast.
Very fast.
It was blazing fast.
Blazing fast. Yeah, and I don't want to do anybody wrong, and go over time. Like I did. Because my clock is off. So yeah. But no, it was great having you here, Ken. And of course, he's going to be here next week, in full living color.
Oh yeah,
that's right. That's
absolutely.
Right. That's right. Any parting thoughts, gentlemen, before we end this episode?
Go ahead, Ken.
Yes, Ken.
Watch out for the Green Goblins or the miners with the jetpacks.
Yep.
That's rule number one you got to be looking out for. And if you shoot them and don't do nothing to them, get a bigger gun. Okay.
Yeah, get a bigger gun.
Step it up.
But anyway, yeah.
Even a Tesla death ray.
It's been great hanging with you guys again.
Yeah, man.
Today, and can't wait for next week.
Yeah, and please support KGRA. Go to kgradb.com, get a membership, enjoy all of the great episodes and podcasts that are out there, especially the true crime stuff. Man, I tell you what, that true crime stuff is off the chain. Off the chain. They're definitely doing some good things over at the station, and I encourage everybody out there, support independent media, because independent media is where at least you get people that are honestly searching,
right.
Whether or not they're in left field, that remains to be seen. But at least, you know what, they're following their heart and they're searching, and there's some great content, excellent content. not your CNBC and your crap mainstay media. So with that said, we are out of time. Have a great week, folks, and we'll see you next Saturday. Good night.